TheAncientWorld.ca, bringing the past into the future. Hello, my name is Dr. David Lipovich, and I'm both a public lecturer and a professional archaeologist specializing in the study of the ancient Near East. In this second in our series, we will address the question of who invented writing. The earliest evidence for writing comes from the site of Jemdet Nasr in central Iraq, and dates to what historians call the early Uruk period, and what archaeologists call the Chalcolithic or Copper Stone Age, around 3600 BCE. The writing represents the Sumerian language, and is written on clay tablets using a form of writing known as cuneiform. Cuneiform, from the Latin word cuneus, meaning wedge, was written in wet clay using a sharpened wooden stylus, much like a chopstick. These early documents consisted primarily of lists of commodities. The earliest form of proto-cuneiform began as pictograms representing crude images associated with words, but quickly evolved into a complicated system of recording sound and ideas having more than 1,000 signs. It was adopted as the writing system for many subsequent unrelated languages, including Akkadian, Eblaite, Elamite, Hittite, Hurrian, and Urartian. Here you can see the development of the sign for the Sumerian word sag, meaning head, from its earliest pictographic form, seen above the number 1, to the point at which it was turned on its side before being turned into the simple wedge forms seen in above sign 3, and then finally its development into a much more abstracted form over time above the number 7. It is thought that the system evolved from clay tokens that were used to record transactions prior to the invention of writing, as early as 8000 BCE. These tokens would be pressed into a piece of clay that would then be used as an envelope containing the tokens, which could be kept as a receipt. Eventually, the Sumerians realized that they could do entirely without the tokens if they simply drew the tokens' imprint on the wet clay with a stylus. Eventually, these drawings became more and more stylized until by the Assyrian era around 900 BCE, they were entirely unrecognizable as ever having been pictograms. The Egyptians developed hieroglyphics not long after the Sumerians developed their writing system. It is thought that since there is considerable evidence for contact between pre-dynastic Egypt and early Uruk period Mesopotamia, that the idea may have been brought from Iraq to Egypt and then developed in Egypt to better reflect their very different language, and their use of papyrus and hard materials such as ivory and stone in lieu of the clay used in Mesopotamia. The earliest evidence for hieroglyphic writing found in Egypt was found in the tomb of one of the kings of pre-dynastic Egypt at the site of Abydos. It takes the form of a series of ivory tokens marked with one or two proto-hieroglyphic symbols each that are meant to indicate the name of the donor of an offering at the tomb, as seen here. These tokens date to about 2740 BCE. Alphabetic writing, like English, does not appear until much later. The earliest examples are Ugaritic, seen here, which used alphabetic cuneiform and clay tablets, and dates to around 1400 BCE, and Proto-Sinaitic, which dates to around 1600 BCE. Some think that the Proto-Sinaitic alphabet was developed from Egyptian hieroglyphics. The Phoenician alphabet was a direct development from Proto-Sinaitic, which was then spread to the Greeks through trade and replaced their own native syllabic writing system. This then developed into the Latin alphabet, which is the direct ancestor of the English alphabet. As a result, one can claim that the alphabet we use today is a development of Sumerian cuneiform with a history going back nearly 10,000 years. If you enjoyed this mini lecture, check out the others available for download. You can also sign up for my online webinar series, or if you live near Toronto, Canada, you can come see me in person at one of my regular public lectures. You can follow me on Twitter at TheAncientWorld.ca, or on Facebook at www.facebook.com/TheAncientWorld.ca, or you can check out my website directly at www.TheAncientWorld.ca.